Only one more commissioner will show up.
Really?
We can adjourn without one more commissioner, right?
Yes.
Let's start
We
something.
don't have to
Get
stay
stopped.
here
If
forever.
we get technical, we just never start.
You laugh, I had that happen. I had somebody get up in the middle of the meeting and leave. It's like motion to adjourn, you can't pass, what do we do?
So what did they do?
They all got up and went home.
Continue till the next meeting.
Yeah, I don't know if we decided the meeting was adjourned or continued or what, but we all went home.
Everybody left.
So who scratched the name on it?
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. The first item on the agenda is public comment. Do we have any public comment tonight for anything that's not on the agenda? Look at that.
We're in business.
I'm just really happy not to see 825 on the agenda.
I told Brian I was gonna resign if it showed up on the agenda this time.
I smiled.
We left it off for that purpose.
We needed a break.
Is there any reason, Eric, for me to tell what I'm doing?
If you'd like to give them a heads up, you sure
Just-
could.
So, I'm working with Russ and Shirley Huntsman, and they have 4 acres of property between Mill Road and Highway 40,
And your name is?
Robert Armstrong. And I've filled out an application to ask for that to be commercial property. It's a 4-acre piece that Russ Huntsman has used as his drill. He's a water well driller. He's used it for his drilling yard. There's a lot of junk equipment out there. And then his father-in-law, even before that, it was part of the Webb trucking. And that property was used as truck maintenance, and when they worked on it, I guess you could describe it as maybe a construction yard. And so that's gonna be coming. I don't think it'll be on the agenda for any month,
So the application in progress. That's probably a good thing to do, is give them a heads up on that, just brush up on that as we go through. And with our zone change requirements, so.
So that's right next to Mark's property, right?
It is directly west, I believe.
There's some frontage on Mill Road, and then there's a 40-foot right-of-way off of Highway 40.
Yeah.
So where is that exactly, whose property?
Behind Jesse Mayer's house.
Just a minute.
I have a little white.
Okay.
In
Frame
between
house.
Jesse's
Right there.
and the tree guy, where all that stuff is in the field right there.
But that's not all 4 acres.
So Jesse has 1 acre. And then.
His house sits on one.
House sits on one,
And
and then
Huntsman's yard is that place, but that's not 4 acres.
it is, because it wraps around
Triangle.
and goes back over to McAllister's. It's really shaped weird, but it does, it goes, I don't even know how to
So it
describe.
crosses Wolstenholme's property?
No.
Yes.
Wilson Humes came from.
Their road is part of this property. So their road is just a right-of-way across this property, and that's part of it. So there's about 1 acre north of that driveway and about 3 acres approximately, well, it's south and east of that driveway.
Behind Jesse's house.
That's right.
And what are they gonna do with it?
Well, we're asking for it to be zoned commercial and use it for a construction yard or clean it up first thing, because there's a lot of, it's a mess right now. And,
And you're going to propose to access that through Mark's property?
well, there's already a 40-foot right-of-way, or I don't even know the proper word for it, off of Highway 40, but there is some frontage off of Mill Road also.
So you'd be proposing accessing commercial vehicles through that Huntsman property on Mill Road?
Well, I guess you'd have a driveway, maybe a fenced entrance or a gated entrance there or something.
Okay, so that'll be coming down pretty soon, sounds like, application's on its way.
It's a enterprise zone now
That's
on
what
the
stuff
zoning
says
map.
here. This is Stephanie's, there's the tree place. This is Webb's. That's Mayor's.
He attempted to draw a map.
I've had some thoughts about something that's not on the agenda.
Okay.
Reminded me when I saw this map. What,
They got 1 acre.
what would be the feasibility of getting some kind of a laminated
That's where they
map
got
of
the
Daniels and
property.
adjoining
Husband's.
Heber City that we could put up on the wall during meetings,
Did you
city
know
and
Yeah.
planning meetings? It would be, I feel like a lot of people are
That would
in the
be
dark a
extremely
lot.
helpful.
Well, the problem is, every time that you go to build a
Right,
map,
this road right
Heber
here.
City changes. So the maps that I have that are on their website, the last ones I just printed off,
Google Earth.
are already up for a change on that. That was C2 commercial, I believe, on Mill Road, across the road from this property, just down the road, across the road.
But even if we
Well,
put
it's
it
right
right,
across the road, isn't it?
look at that.
Yeah,
Even if you did it once every couple of months, or quarterly or something, it'd give you a good idea.
Yeah, and so that becomes a problem. We could do the town, because we don't change zones that often, but as far as abutting up to the C2 that Heber has, or as they change those, right now, I believe that that's in for a zone change to high density, 450 in that parcel. They decided that the commercial 2, there's still some commercial 2 on the front, but all the back of that, they're trying to look at residential. And of course, that parcel is the one that we signed the agreement on Highway 40 for the alignment to swing out into that development and come back at a 90-degree on Highway 40 there at Mill Road. So that's part of that development too, and I haven't, let's see,
That's
what,
McAllister's.
so was it the RPO on a week ago Thursday? And they were talking about that very development.
That's right.
Okay.
So, I mean, the Heber City one, they just did their impact fee study, and all their zoning is, we shouldn't say that, because their land use is not current zoning. So they have 2 different maps, they have a land use, and then they have their zoning. And so you have to keep them 2 separate of what future uses they've allocated for certain parcels. We opted in the town not to do the future land use, because we leave it up to, it's obviously application driven.
Okay.
But they actually will go out and make those, this area's gonna be this, and they created that map.
Would be nice though, probably just to have a Daniel map with the parcels on it from the county website.
Yeah. Another thought I had is,
Pam's got that big one, but it's not laminated because she likes being able to write.
yeah.
That's probably my fault, I have one I could bring, but
Another thought I had was, I don't know how to do it or if it's feasible. If a person could print one off on the pages like this and just put it in a 3-ring binder and you could just open to certain pages like a atlas.
so have you looked at the maps on our website? On DanielUtah.org?
I have been a while since I've,
I was gonna say, cause those ones have, well, they don't have, it's hard to get the detail on each parcel.
The county parcel map's probably easier to use.
It probably is.
I mean, I'd be willing to store it and take it home and bring it every time if it was something that could be acquired or if you could point me in the right direction, I'd
Well,
be willing to.
And it's kinda weird because we don't have a GIS department. We use these guys, but we have to submit to the county, and then they give us back the maps, so it's quite a process to get the maps out. And so as we make a zone change, we've elected not to change as fast as we do, because it takes so long to get through the process. But we have to, when we send those into the county, that's where they update their maps on the GIS for the county. So if you're going to parcel, it's almost better to go to the county map, because it'll show, but it doesn't show the town boundary. So,
So if you have a piece of property if it's been used as a construction piece of land for, I don't know if that's the right word or not, is it better to leave it as a continued use or to actually zone it commercial where there is some rules? I don't know.
I think Gary's talked to that many times.
Yeah. I think I'd try and rezone it, and, I mean, the existing use, you can pile your used equipment on. I don't think that's what we want. So you might as well decide what you want to use it for, and let's go through the process.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, Gary seemed to think with the continued use, the rules aren't there, but in the zoning, there's some rules.
Exactly.
So there's actually more that can be done with it when it's in the zoning.
I agree.
Okay, is that all the public comment? So I have a map, I'll try and bring that, it's not laminated because like I say, things change, but I do have a big map I should bring in. A lot of times I bring it whenever I get it out, but sometimes we do look at the parcels, so. It was either the map or the Mountain Dew, I guess you know what one tonight.
Does that mean we're staying late?
There's no 8:25.
It's in the to-go cup.
It was a small amount, I think we're okay.
It's a to-go cup. All right, do you want to go? We have an application here. Mr. McCombs is here. Do we want to go out of order and take him right now?
Sure.
Okay.
So you get rid of me?
No.
No.
You're welcome. We can put you at the end, too.
No. I've been through thousands of these, so I'm happy to go first, thank you.
You can, here's the ones right here.
You don't have to leave once you're done, so.
Sometimes I stay because they're entertaining.
This is his
Yeah,
work
we're
plan,
using
and
our
this is
This
his
is
work
where
plan.
Sometimes,
Oh, I was going to say, yeah. There's a lot of entertainment here.
sometimes.
I've been to some really interesting, entertaining guns out, city council meetings.
Yeah, we don't do well.
You know, it gets interesting when they put deputies at all four corners of the room?
Yeah, we've had those, not
Why
Daniel, but
these?
Heber.
Well, the Daniel Irrigation's had a few of those.
Yeah,
For
Daniel
3 years in a
Irrigation.
row, we had the deputies at.
Heber had one on the
All four
airport,
corners.
and we actually had a Daniel resident that got taken out by
So
the
this is
sheriff's
right
station.
there, the point.
And someone you
Yes.
never think would.
Wow.
So this house was here before, once about a year ago,
April,
April,
May,
call that pretty close to a year ago.
June.
June.
June, sorry.
I have it in my letter.
Yeah, so, and at that time, it had a second story and a number of other things. One of the items we had concerns over is it was showing what looked like could be construed or used as an apartment. Working with the applicant and going through I guess a rebudgeting process as well.
It was an apartment, it was a mother-in-law's thing, but the mother-in-law didn't come.
Oh, okay. Well, so my point was that it could, it was a concern that they had, but through the mother-in-law not coming and some other budget constraints, the house has been reduced a little bit, including getting rid of that concern we had. So whether it was or wasn't, and was it a technicality, now that's all gone, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah. Now we no longer have to debate the finer points of what is an apartment and what isn't, because it's not there.
But we never would have used it for that
But if
anyway.
the house was built with it, then it's a big.
Yeah. So,
Pardon?
If the house is built with an apartment in it, then it becomes an
It
on-roll.
wasn't an apartment, it was just kind of a bedroom. It was just not super attached. Anyway, it's gone.
so regardless, the concern we had last time is now been addressed, I think, adequately, because the room isn't there in any shape or form. The second story has been revised, and there's now a finished basement, so minor edits there, but otherwise it's basically the same plan on the same location. The site plan's very similar. But it had been long enough that staff felt like it was a good idea to come back through you guys. So we're still working through staff approval. Structural still has to get through their review. So the motion we'd ask for tonight is, approval, as soon as the engineering reviews are complete and changes have been made.
So what is the cross street for Poppy Lane?
3,000 south.
2000 South.
3,000 South, how far?
And Gun, what is it,
383
Gun,
West.
Gun Club Road?
Big hollow.
Big Hollow Road.
Big Hollow Road, yeah.
It's basically across the street from the Three Farm subdivision.
So are there any concerns other than just the engineering checks for the plans?
No,
Nothing on site?
no, the site plan looks pretty straightforward. I don't have any major concerns, so we just have to go through the checks. I'm sure there'll be a few. Structural always finds one beam that they had a question on, because that's what they
That's
do.
their job.
Makes them happy.
Sometimes I wonder if they stare at the plans until they find something, but I'm sure there'll be a few minor things. I don't see anything significant or major.
Did you have a review letter?
I do.
On this thing? So these are the items that he has?
So they have all their water, they have all their.
And so they've got everything submitted, so this is what we have to date. There were a couple of the engineering calculations and some other things came in, so there'll be probably a review letter too.
This is my review, and then these are the.
We have water, electric, and it'll be on septic, obviously.
All those have been
And
approved.
that's the old.
We have
review
septic
and old-
approval, health approval.
Yep, we have the Wilson letters.
That was the old review on the old review plans, and then this is.
And that
this
here.
is for the- So your plans on there.
I should have brought more copies. Only brought one.
Yeah,
All that, but,
I know.
okay, well,
So what happened with the request for lot line adjustment?
He went through that, right?
So this was the first concern on that.
Right, so this is the old review on the old plan. Why not, huh?
Sure.
We'll have to try to align the 4 acres with the others.
but since that's not here tonight, we're not.
It's not possible, so we go forward.
Yeah, so that was on the first review we did in June. Yeah, 5th of June. So you can see those items that we have. Is there any other concerns you have, or can we?
No, we can't. I'm just saying, you're saying there's a 12-inch irrigation line over the north section. I think there's a 12-inch irrigation line that goes right through the middle.
Well, so
Of my
in the
property?
north, there's two parcels.
No. There's one that goes,
It goes right up from,
there's,
between Wards and,
Okay, got it.
the rear property is this.
Wrong.
This is the front, like this. Or not.
So the irrigation line's here, the house is back here, so it's the 12-inch line's actually on the, he owns both, but the 12-inch line's
oh,
on this
okay,
parcel.
yeah,
on this
I was,
parcel.
it goes to that.
Yep.
He knows where they are. Let's see if he knows.
So the big one that no one's allowed to touch goes right there. And there's another one that breaks off that goes back in here.
Yeah.
No one's allowed to touch. You must have had a little bit of,
No,
Interaction with-
when I bought it and then talked to the irrigation guys, it's only down 4 feet.
Yeah.
And it's the main thing, so
It's made right over
It's the one they dug, the
area.
culinary dug up right by my driveway.
Right.
Flooded everything.
so we've been really, really careful to,
Well, I think the big one that you're not supposed to touch is a great description.
perfect. Not to be confused with the one you can't hit.
Especially not during irrigation season. Because then the neighbors get upset.
And all this was sorted out about ag building
Yes. All right.
setbacks.
Those things were worked through,
These are all
yeah.
worked.
Yeah.
So they're all in, if it's still an item, it's in that review letter. So that's why we're asking for the motion, once those things are completed, then you can move ahead with the application.
yeah, everything that was on the June letter is already incorporated into the new plans.
So, if you guys are ready, I'll make a motion if you still need to look at things. You good, Mark?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, I think how to work this. I move that we accept the McCombs, or how, no, that's not how we do it.
For the building permit contingent upon satisfactory reviews.
Yep. Looking for the words, thank you. Okay, I move that we approve the McCombs building permit, subject to the engineering reviews provided by GDA engineers.
Subject to what?
The engineering reviews,
Subject to the engineering reviews, okay.
Okay, I have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, discussion on the motion. Being none, call for the vote, all in favor?
right?
Aye. Any opposed? That's good, because it takes all four of them to pass something. Motion carries, very good.
David was ready to vote.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, what do you need back? Anything?
What else do you need from me?
No, I don't think.
I'll be in touch with you.
We make a habit of not giving anything out that we need back.
Okay, all right.
Because the general rule of thumb, the exceptions happen, but the
Just the
general rule of
review.
thumb.
Yeah.
Take it back if you want.
Okay, I haven't seen this,
Okay.
so probably good I have that.
You haven't seen this one?
You wanna stay?
What are you gonna do? What's next?
Another building?
They have water.
I saw that show. If you're gonna do something really cool, then I'll
They
say.
have the water. Apparently they're big enough.
Okay, thank you.
Last time.
All right, the next one we have is the Neff residence. And so this will be going on the parcel that used to be, well, it's part of the Bedler subdivision.
Okay, next to Readers.
Next to Readers?
Yeah. Sullivan.
Right, correct.
Make a mess. Okay, that's why. You have it on the second page.
Turn down roll to the right page.
Looks like a fairly substantial house.
Over 10,000 square feet.
Okay, I don't want to mix up your figures.
It's site plan I'm curious about. I'm liking the site plan a bit better here.
Yeah, so there's a number of comments on the site plan about applying it.
And attached.
Which the gist is that it's on, they're building everything on the front border.
Yeah.
This one I have seen.
The other one,
Where?
Southfield Road, so right here.
This
this
one
one
I
is
do.
mostly your comments.
So this is big
All the
problem.
other
This is
side was big.
right here.
So they're in your back.
And they're right here in my
I
backyard.
think this one could come together.
They're still
Every
half
time I
mile
look,
away.
you don't have
That's
any
good.
calculations.
Was that
when you walk in,
Rex's
right?
house?
There's Rex's house, and then it's this piece
Or even then, it
here.
just got covered.
Then this piece belongs to
And
Mike
then
Sullivan.
yesterday, I got some
That's Mike's
septic, and
house
I got
right
some
there.
this, so this is everything that I covered.
So they're building on that long.
That one might be more of a work in progress.
Yeah, it's a 10-acre piece
That's why,
right
because
now.
I have-
One piece at a time.
That's right.
But by building in the
Okay.
front,
This
they
is
can't divide the back.
You're gonna get through all these issues one way or another.
Well, could be. I think they need to spell Daniel right, that'll be.
You need to aware of all your comments, but then they're trying to be structured.
Yeah,
So
that's a problem.
Yeah, and I know Kim was working those in.
Unless that's where they want
It's
to
a matter of
build.
We've done it multiple
Right.
ways.
Maybe that's where they're
Again, all the
building, so
comments
they're
on
not
one
building
piece of
here at
paper.
all.
Things go much faster.
From
It
this
just takes
distance,
longer
I
to get
couldn't see that.
As soon as I said your comments,
I like that.
inevitably he thinks those are all the
That's
comments.
it.
You-
And then he doesn't understand. that
That's why I've
all
been
those-
sending them to her, she's been incorporating those in.
They're all incorporated in here along with.
Despite that this seems cumbersome,
Because it's still off.
really helps.
It helps the applicant for sure.
They don't think it does, but it will.
Yeah.
Even though we do land a little bit. This one says. like, has
264
comments in
feet,
here.
because there's this corner section out of it that belongs to Mike
That's
Sullivan.
fine. There's a reason. It's not complete yet. It's still draft as I keep getting comments.
I've never figured out how that happened.
I gave up on some of those parcels, figuring out how that happened. We got that one over on 3000 South that they sold it, recorded it, and then recorded over it. The owner that had just sold it recorded over it 30 feet narrower the day after they sold it. And
Yeah, I remember that one.
that's the way it is. It's like, wow. So after that, I'd given up on how parcels became the shape they were.
I was gonna say, if they can't spell Daniel right, I don't think we should give them building permit.
Noted.
Wait, you missed the one?
Oh, yeah.
Just a mess, boss, so far.
That's what I get.
I saw that. I try not to be too hard on people about spelling. It's hard to throw stones because they come back at me.
Oh, I remember that happened on Karen Brady residence.
It's like bad handwriting. You can't really fault anybody. But yes, it is a large house.
Kim, come on in.
Yeah, I'm not showing setbacks here, or
Yeah, you can put the red would be. So we were wanting, there was a survey done, so we wanted to show the easement. It's already done and recorded, we're not asking for more property, we're just asking them to show what is really there. And then the setbacks to be measured off of the right spot. You know, the setback's 30 feet, 147, I don't think it's gonna make any difference, but I'd like it to be right.
Yeah.
And I'd like the easement shown and all these other dimensions. I think it's fine as I scale it off, based on the scale, but
This is the check.
1 to 60 is really hard. You can be off a little bit pretty quick. So they need to be shown so that we're
So your review letter,
positive.
it's the same one, right?
Yep.
You got a review letter there?
what's the height on this?
Yeah, 3411.
There would be 11 inches.
What's the math?
So that's what we're working on right now.
Measured from where?
Let's turn that page.
So there's been a couple of things we've noted with this parcel, and one is the right-of-way on Southfield Road. We've requested that their survey line up with the town survey. We've hired that to be surveyed, and they don't, they're pretty close. But we want them to line up prior to shooting the building permit. And on the back of that parcel is that right-of-way that we talked about with the Wilds. I would like that to show up on the plat prior. So that's a couple of the items in your report that you have there.
So they're 3411 at the roof line, which means their chimney can be how much higher?
Within 10 feet, it has to be 2 feet higher. And I believe the code, Kim can probably pull it up here.
So our
The
code
code
just-
talks about the height of it. It's 35 feet, but then exempts out certain things
It
like
doesn't
chimneys.
exempt that, okay.
And there's a handful of other things that don't count the 35 feet. Chimneys is one of them.
And flagpoles are mentioned there.
This is code 8.
The cupola was
1.09.
one. The cupola we have on another house was.
So by the time they
Churches.
put the fill in that's required for drainage, this will really be 38, 39 feet?
Yeah, because they're calling it off of finished grade, so depending on how high they build up finished grade before they build. Yes, potentially. And based on that site plan, it's really hard for me to tell you how much they plan to fill.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have to do something because there's a gentle
Ditch.
slope there.
There's a ditch right there.
Like Gary said, a gentle slope.
Yeah, the ditch, I'm not sure is ever gonna have water in it again.
Not till they build.
All right.
That's how it works. So I think every item that we found is in that letter we've addressed. Is there something that you guys see that maybe get all your eyes on it and see what you think?
Yeah, spelled Beathers, correct.
We
Still
didn't?
others?
The letter to Mr. Taylor from Cable and Murray doesn't spell Beathers.
Oh.
I'll apologize on his behalf, he's an engineer. You get your phone number right, but he probably won't remember your name.
So we'll be looking for a same motion here with those items. The staff is indicated on that letter, so we'll be looking for that same motion on this as it moves forward. We have sent that letter to them. I don't think they've responded, have they?
They came in yesterday and was asking questions.
They've responded.
They've asked questions, we don't have corrections to all those items.
Right.
Yeah, make sure you have the irrigation shares, because from what I was told, Bart didn't sell them all the shares. So I don't know how many, I think you got like 20 shares. And Bart got the rest.
Do they have to turn over a certain amount of irrigation shares for a water hookup then?
No,
Well, they will if they hook on the culinary, but they won't as far as, all we're looking for is to make sure the shares are there for land that has been historically irrigated. That's what that check is for. So if that land has been irrigated, we want them to have those shares attached to the property so it can continue to be, it doesn't become a weed patch.
I see.
because it did have 40 shares on it when it was sold from Betters when it was subdivided.
So is there a minimum amount of shares per acre?
There is, the Daniel Irrigation gave us that number, is 4.3 shares per acre of that water. Each class has a different acre foot, and so each kind of different class of irrigation you had would be, it would depend on how many shares versus the acre feet. But the Daniel Irrigation has indicated to us that it was 4.3 shares per acre.
Well, if he's planning to irrigate 8 acres, he's gotta have 30 plus shares, then is that what we're understanding?
Yeah, well, we'll back out where the house is, and then
Right,
our
that's-
services, but,
That's why if it's a 10 acre piece, that's why I figured he's gonna irrigate 8.
yeah.
As much landscaping as he has, probably needs 2 shares of irrigation water.
So we'll ask for evidence of those shares. The interesting part there is that there's nothing that says he can't sell them the next day, but the day he shows it to us, I mean, that's all we can do. And then the second part to that, Mark, is if they are gonna connect to the culinary water, then we require water rights to be turned over to supply that house so that we don't run out of water rights for the culinary, but 2 separate issues that get confused a lot.
Yeah.
And so that will definitely be an extension of the line.
I mean, I'd be
They're
asking
asking.
only having 20 because that means more pressure up at my house. But
How many lots are down in this area?
Well-
Potential lots.
Potentially, we have the Sullivan piece just on the other side of this. It was looking to be subdivided, I don't know how big that parcel is.
it's 20 acres.
20 acres, so 4 more there. And then Kip Banger has a lot across the street.
And this is South Mill Road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
This is the one part
is
where-
that
And
an
this one
8-inch
in Readers
line
could possibly be
that would be
divided in half.
it is an 8-inch line going down there, I believe, when we put that in, because there's a fire hydrant right there.
Yeah, I was gonna talk with you and Gary about that. They're
That
trying
never
to figure out
happened.
how to best to do water
This is
now.
the one you were looking at?
I think there's an opportunity that we can discuss.
Very good.
It's not quite 10 acres, no.
Okay, so it
If I
can't be
remember right,
divided.
it can't be divided.
Right, this one's just shy of that. And I think that's, as you seen when Bart was here, he was trying to get to where it would all be 10 acres. And apparently that never worked out, because he's just sold this the way it is.
Yeah. So it would be 10 acres, but it's got a corner out of it.
That little corner right there that you were showing us.
Yeah.
That's something, chunk.
And that would make it 10 acres at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I don't know, I think I was talking to Mike, and he was saying there was a house there that he had bought, part of his parcel, and there was a house there, and that's why that jog is there. But
Could be
before
either.
my time.
Or maybe they bought it for frontage because the county's had all kinds of weird frontage rules over the years.
Yeah, and that's where they got hung up at. They even did perk tests in that field, but it became an alignment issue, and they just backed away from it at that point. The county wasn't willing to move on what they were requiring. So they just backed away at that
Apparently
point.
the county wanted the road to go through, and that's why Mike said, forget
I don't know, it was before my time too.
it. Yeah.
So if you guys see any other issues that's with that parcel, we definitely want to get those 2 items included in there on the site plan.
Yeah, that one's probably fine. There is a irrigation lateral, but it's about halfway back.
So we looked at that, and it is back quite a ways from where they think the house is gonna go and anything else.
Yeah.
And there is a note in there about working with the irrigation company if they wanna run a separate line and do lawn sprinklers or something off of that they should connect out of irrigation season and work with the irrigation company on how to do that.
Which both of these 2, we should probably tell you, have been we ran past the irrigation company, so we've been in agreement with them to work with them cooperatively. Yeah.
So following that agreement, both Doug came in and has reviewed both the last one and this one.
So as we work to cooperate with them, we'll,
It's getting where they know where most of their lines are.
if only we knew where our lines were.
You sort of do.
On the lower end of town.
No, we're in Stormhaven, somewhere.
Maybe.
You see that, you see the meter? There's a, near the,
Yeah,
somewhere.
somewhere, it's being fed from somewhere. Okay, anything else on that? You got anything?
Everything is in that letter.
Pretty good.
Gary's gonna find one more thing, no?
No, I'm looking for where it talks about a decent site plan, and I don't see that.
That was a comment. Number 4, utilities are not shown on site plan. Please show water, irrigation, sewer, electric, and gas connections to the building and to detached garage. These would have to be shown on the plans prior to any plan approval.
I got the same one.
It's on the GDA letter. Other
No.
letter, that's the Timberline letter.
Oh, this is net residence, right here.
No, you've got a GDA letter and a Timberline.
Oh, okay.
So it's number 4.
It could probably be stronger in the,
Well, it's
give me
not
a real site
showing,
plan.
it doesn't ask for the, oh no, setbacks on the site plan. That's the one thing I'd like to see them label all the setbacks there.
And they have the scan of those red lines that I, with the dimensions and X's on there.
Okay.
Actually, you took them out of my letter. I had every single one written out and then you're putting them out. Well, I had it, like, it's like 37.5,
Having those
it's
tracks
greater than 10. I'll add it back in from now on. I still have it in the McCombs letter, you haven't taken out the McCombs letter yet.
It's a long list. We know it's preliminary, but we've gone over it pretty thorough, I believe. As you can see something, definitely more eyes are better, so. If nothing, then I'll entertain a motion.
Almost as if you're entertaining that now.
Who will make the motion? Do we accept these? The staff requirements are met. I've been to a few of those meetings.
Staff requirements and whims.
That way there, we can just go right to court.
Yep.
This is essentially next door.
Yeah, it's kind of this way, but
An electronic thing.
Once I get everything else before I send it out, that's why it doesn't have the black mark, it's all draft and I haven't signed it.
it's gonna block my view of Bingley's.
I use my email for storage.
East.
Oh, well, okay, that's a good thing.
It's one where Ryan has to review it and parse off everything and he gets stressful in there and it's supposed to be
Yeah,
one
it's
final letter with black on the side, so that's how you always tell the final.
That's right.
Okay, perfect.
Except the new letter is not black anymore.
I know, I haven't implemented it yet.
Oh, interesting.
I started it before that letter template went out. I know, I'm gonna be running out of that very soon.
So next letter.
So they'll fall in first.
This one I started before.
And they put their house here, so they can see the pit.
I
But these
believe
no feathers wrong on the plan, too.
that's because it's the old Douglas subdivision.
Well, they spelled it. They
Well,
spelled it.
so all the
forever.
engineer did was took it off the plan and wrote it the same way, so.
There you go.
They've got it as
I'm
forever.
sure it's still the
Yes, I
engineer's
do.
fault.
That's exactly what the other one did it.
Yeah.
So your engineer was just doing what,
Well,
Didn't
I'm
check
sure it's still his fault. It's all the engineer's fault.
Of course.
Oh, good, I didn't put it on the agenda because I probably would have taken it right off of there too.
I only know because I was looking at the survey. I included the surveys that were original for the guys to be able to look up and start.
So we will add 2 things to the letter about being able to spell the town right and then the subdivision they're in.
Okay, somebody ready to make a motion? Either way?
I'm not any good at stating a motion, so I'll second somebody's.
I don't think we can take a second before we have a motion.
I'll second somebody's when they state it. How's that sound?
I haven't had that happen before, but I don't know if we can do that.
See, that's scary right
so are
there.
we approving this now because we're trying not to hold them up?
Basically, there's a chance that they could get all these things corrected before our next meeting.
Okay.
And it's March, everybody's thinking they're gonna break ground, they're in a hurry, let's go, go, go,
Well,
and,
winter just started, so
yeah.
I don't know how they can
Well,
do
they
I
that.
believe we had that
January.
conversation with them, but, hey, Amy, it's that time of year where everybody's in a hurry, and then we'll see when they really break ground. And we did the same thing in the spring, you know, the February, March, April meetings were, you know, building permits, we gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta get started, and then they broke ground in August.
And lucked out.
And this may
And
be
locked
the
down.
same.
Yeah.
Because I guess I don't really care that much about the details of the construction, but the site plan is the thing we look at most of all.
Okay. You're the
So
final
I guess
commissioner.
I'm a little hesitant to say yes until we see a site plan that looks complete.
Okay. We're almost under like a motion.
It's really close, except for you didn't say I moved.
Okay, I was trying to hear,
So the site plan, there's not a site plan to show the setbacks and the offsets and.
well, it's,
Not all up to date.
Yeah, it's just, there is one right inside the
Pretty incomplete,
page. There is a site plan there, but there's some things missing on there that we've noted in that report.
Okay.
And so if there's something that maybe that you think that's not on that report that could entail that site plan, then we probably ought to continue that so you can see it. If everything's encompassed in that letter, then we're probably okay to move forward, so.
Yeah, and then are you waiting for the survey to line up? Didn't you say that had already happened?
They've
No,
surveyed it, it's just not on the site plan.
Yeah, it's just not on their site plan. We want that to be shown on there.
I'm with Gary on that one. I don't like the idea of approving it based on what's in the letter, having not seen a site plan, where there are that many questions about the site plan.
So is that a motion to continue?
but I move that we continue until we get a complete site plan.
Okay, have a motion to continue.
Could we add to that, Gary, a complete site plan addressing the issues?
We could, but I think just say
Just
a
want that.
complete site plan,
Okay, have a motion.
and way they can guess what a complete site plan is.
Okay, I'm looking for a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor? Okay,
So
motion.
we're gonna continue it until we get the complete site plan, is that correct?
Yeah, they said that, but we only meet once a month, so we continue to the next meeting.
Okay.
So motion carries.
If we have a site plan at the next meet, by the next meeting.
Right.
But I think the way the motion stated is better, that if they don't have a site plan at the next meeting.
I mean,
Doesn't have to be here.
looking at this, you wouldn't approve an agricultural building with this site plan,
That's correct.
so I'm kind
Okay, very good. Continued. Okay, item number 4. Oh, we better clean up some before. Do you want to fix this up? You all the back? Before I move on? At least this part. Okay, item number 4, continued. The McAllister Highway 40 zone change.
Well, I'm in the limbo mode with other things happening around my property.
Okay, is that a motion to continue?
Can continue it, yes.
Okay, have a motion to continue. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Have a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That'll be continued to our next meeting.
Can I just make a comment on
You
this
bet.
last one?
You bet.
Site plan probably should show fill and grade.
There's a pretty good list in the code about what needs to be on it and not.
Okay. Well,
I can't remember
whatever's
if
in the
I
code.
can't remember if that's on there, but if, but yeah,
It's
I agree
usually
with you.
on the plans.
it-
A good site plan would certainly include cut and fills. But my only hesitation is I'd have to review that list in the code.
I
Right,
just
because-
referenced that code list, 8.07 for that
Hey.
one.
We just have to be careful to require what we want versus require what's in the code.
Right, no,
If we can do it, I agree completely.
Yeah.
This list.
Okay. Anything else before we move on to item number 5? Okay. Kirk Clyde residents, we've issued a CO. You have a copy of that CO. We talk about that a lot. And at this time, I probably ought to tell you that some of these items that you receive in your packets are not free to the public. So be aware that some of these items don't go floating around the public.
Oh,
Those are for
thanks.
you, okay? But I wanted you to know that we issue them and that's what they look like. Also noted that that was issued on February 3rd at 7:45 a.m. So that's a Saturday at 7:45 when that thing was issued. They got their final requirements done on the road. So I told the council I dared them to find another municipality that issues a CO on a Saturday morning at 7:45.
I hope they bought you breakfast for that.
No,
No donuts?
no, and it's not allowed, so.
Oh, that's There were no donuts involved.
So that's why you have to respect better.
Okay, I put the Brown residents on here because I thought we would be reviewing that tonight, but obviously they haven't completed theirs, so. That one there's already approved. They're in the midst of building that. You'll see that on your planner report, and we'll talk about that in the next one. But that comes up too on the Brown property. And there we are at the Brown planner report, so we'll just talk about it right now. Okay, so y'all have a copy of the report?
Yeah.
I know I gave you one, Kim, but I think you've run it. We should tell him what we're doing.
I hope there's no surprises here.
Yeah, I hope there's not either. So as we go down through that list, Mick got his net metering complete. It's done, he has solar panels in place. The three farms road standard, the road's installed, it's completed to the back. So that won't be a holdup as those residences, the other two residents come for their CO. And we got the McCombs, the Neff. So the Blair, Libert, okay, they were looking at running a kennel on the back of this property, and so they were just looking for questions about that on the back of this property.
What is that one?
It's at the back of Three Farms Road, so you can drive down there, the house right at the end.
Okay.
And Jaime Aguirre, we're finally done there, got the final inspection. That's been a long process on that one. So we had, jumping down to Chad Spencer, we had some inquiries about a new church in the Daniel area. It identified a couple of parcels, but that's as far as it went. There was no follow through.
So what kind of a church, if I can ask, I'm wondering if we get options.
I don't know if they got that far, but I believe it was an LDS church, but they never got that far to, apparently there were some boundary issues of who was supposed to push that item, and so.
So is Chad Spencer the property owner?
He would have been, no, he's not a property owner.
It was a question
He was an agent for the church,
Okay.
for a church.
a church.
Was he an architect?
I can say the church. 'Cause I don't know.
I believe he was a realtor.
Better check
They had him the boundaries of the wrong division, hired him, and he was in the wrong area, and he had to, anyway.
Had to be the LDS church.
I got confused, but they haven't come back yet. I assume they will be soon.
They had identified 3
Yes.
parcels in the town of Daniel and 2 on the border. So, next item, Todd Wall. You know, we had that, we talked about that a couple of times. We had a stop work order on the parcel. We sent back an application. He sent in a request for an excavation permit. We wouldn't accept that permit because of the stop work order on his other property. He has since, we've been talking to him and he's working through those issues. And he will do whatever it takes to lift that stop work order. So we're working through that issue. This county regional water study, Kim, do you want to fill them in on that?
Well, I think it was just everybody that's interested in any of the water that's in the valley now, whether it's under county control or municipality irrigation company. They expect a population of somewhere around 80,000 by the year 2060. But the main purpose of all of that is to try and keep the water in the valley and not have it go down into Utah County, Salt Lake. And in order to do that, this committee would be formed to get a better working relationship to make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed so that that objective can be met. And from what I gather, there's quite a bit of interest in that, and I don't know where the committee's went to at this point, whether they've selected those folks or not.
Who was selecting?
County council, I believe.
Yeah, county council.
I think Steve Farrell was heading that whole discussion. So, they've had one meeting. They invited pretty much everybody in the valley, all the municipalities, and a lot of the irrigation companies. Daniel Irrigation was there. There's a lot of folks there, but I don't, they didn't even have the scope. The study was gonna be, what they,
300,000.
300,000 for the study to see what the scope would be, so. It's expensive. So they're trying to decide if we need a study, and secondly, who's gonna pay for that study? So it gets pretty good.
But I think there will be quite a demand on the water that's up in our valley. And if it gets to be where the culinary is a real tough situation down in the lower valleys, Heber Valley could have a fight on their hands. They really could. So I think it's a great idea. And anytime you're talking about studies and engineers, not personal, it can get pretty expensive. And I think that Heber Valley will be headed that way, whether they like it or not. If it's governed properly, I think they will have to do that, should do that.
I have a little tangent that goes along with this growth and water. And any of these people that are worried about keeping the water worry about the amount of pollution that ends up being trapped in the valley, inversions starting with the amount of growth, and makes you wonder if there's something in the works or thought process with people in the planning departments to, hey, what can we do to stop this from being so populated that it happens with a lot of inversion? Just a thought. I wonder what you thought, or if you had any.
Yeah, air quality didn't come up in this particular discussion, but I'm sure that it's the same old thing. You have to eat an elephant one bite at a time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure with that amount of growth, air quality would be a problem in the valley, especially the year 2060.
So along those lines, I went to the RPO meeting. They reported that we are now at 50% in Wasatch County of second homes. So
50%?
50%, so there's 50% are second homes. not the principal.
And that's, they're calling that's valley, so they're taking all the municipalities
Right.
and all the cities. and
Wasatch
so on.
County and all.
So, not just county residents that are listed still in county, but those that have been incorporated as well.
Correct, everything within the
Everything
county
within the
boundaries.
county boundaries.
And then, Mr. Smith was talking about entitled development rights, so those would be ones that are already approved. And he had somewhere, I can't remember the exact number, it was around 30,000, so. We're at 31,000 in the county right now. By 2050, they expect to add another 37 to that. So that's a number at
Add 37 to the existing,
To the
or 37
31.
to the 31?
Yeah, add 37 to the 31.
What was the year of that?
2050.
2050?
And so along those lines was the next item down there is the Heber City impact fee and master plan review. They had that go 2 weeks ago at the Heber City. We found a couple items in there. One was Blaine H. Smith's well, was a future water source for Heber City. A couple things like that, but
I'm sure.
I was playing
Did
aware
Blaine
of
do
that.
that one yet?
he was when I told him. So, yeah, there was a couple of things in there. There was some water lines that, and we can get into it if you want to, if you don't. There's some water lines that come down through Daniel, along the airport, goes down and crosses Highway 189, services the other side of 189, as far down as the current annexation of Charleston. So there's quite a bit of growth on that side that they're looking to service with sewer lines and water lines. A couple of those lines come through the town of Daniel. I didn't go tell them that that probably wasn't gonna happen, but so I'll leave that up to the next planner.
Yeah, they'll have them halfway in before you find out about them.
I don't know, people call pretty quick when they dig up
Somebody
the
starts
road.
digging.
Yeah, I'm usually on my way out the door with this code in my hand. Here, Mr. Trackball operator, keep digging, it's only a misdemeanor. 30 days in jail for every day, keep going.
Take a look.
So that's, anyway, that review came up and it's big, it encompasses a lot. One thing that I thought was interesting when I read that is they don't anticipate needing any more culinary water because of the transfer of irrigation water over to pressurized, that they think that those uses, everybody's using culinary for watering their lawns and outside use, will actually take care of their need. So they haven't allocated new uses for water up to, I can't remember what the date was, 2030 on their plan. So that was very interesting, because usually that's the first thing you're looking for as well.
Wait till Ernie opens their fire plugs. You're next.
Yeah. And then the new state enforcement rules, Kimberly pointed this out to me. The legislature has passed a thing that makes us take law enforcement out to issue the ticket on a code enforcement.
So we have to hire a cop.
Yes. So they're the ones that issue the ticket. So, and then the bottom item there is Summit Engineering looking at questions on a zone change on Highway 40. So we had a meeting with them. Okay.
Eric,
Again,
if I may, let me take you back to where you talked about a entity or a person that stated the irrigation shares would be enough to handle culinary.
mhm.
Where'd that all originate? Who was it again?
That was the engineering firm that did the study for Heber City. And so that's their conclusion, that they will not have to get new sources for culinary water because of the pressurized irrigation will take over those areas that are currently watering with culinary. So all of Old Heber that doesn't have pressurized irrigation,
A lot of it's still flood irrigation.
The new land that might open up for farming, because the other land is taken up by new homes and new projects. I mean, are we considering, I'm thinking like the irrigation company now. I mean, that'd be the worst thing I'd like to hear, is that pretty soon my irrigation company doesn't exist.
Well, and that's what's happening.
Yeah.
As they annex in, all those shares on them properties